Welcome to Cinema Therapy's inaugural strike telethon. I don't know what the hell we're calling this, but welcome. We're doing something a little bit different today. We're actually going to interview working writers, actors, and stunt performers to talk about why the strikes are going on and what you can do to help. So please check out everything they have to say and learn a little bit about labor in the film industry.
These are their stories.
So for many, many decades, the way Residuals worked is that every time a piece of content was aired, the writer and actor and director and many, many other people involved in the production, they would get a payment based on that airing. And since the more times something aired, the more people either bought a ticket to see it or an ads would be ran against it. That meant that, the more successful it was, the more money the people involved in it would enjoy.
Right.
And those residuals have basically evaporated. We're making 1% of what we used to make.
We receive a flat payment just for the piece being on the service at all, right? Just because your show is up on Netflix, you receive a payment every single year. Problem number one is that payment is extremely small.
Yep.
Problem number two is it does not go up the more people watch it. For my show, Adam Ruins Everything, that I created for the smallest channel on basic cable, the first year that it aired, I received about $25,000 in residuals.
Okay.
And, in the years after that, I would receive, I still get a couple $1,000s a year because they rerun it. And that's not a living, but that's part of a living, right? That helps you pay the rent during the lean times. And also they're earning money every single time. So you earn money too every time they make money off of your work.
I am making more on the residuals from that show that I shot in 2005 for a tiny role than I am for huge guest star, guest lead shows that I did within the last 5 years.
As creatives, it's not a 9 to 5, and sometimes you have to make that money that you make sustain yourself over a long period of time.
And then everything that they're asking for the actors are going to affect stunt people as well. Between the jobs, we're not getting paid to train. We're not getting, if anything, we're paying money to train. What pays for all that is residual. So we need that money in order to keep our skills sharp, keep everybody safe when we actually do get hired. I mean, it's incredibly important.
You can draw a line to what's happening right now in our strike with the trend of the shrinking middle class in America, and I'll tell you why.
This idea that most people, that all these actors and stunt people are just like rolling in money.
They're all driving around in Lamborghinis and they live in a fancy house in the Hollywood Hills. Hollywood is a middle class industry.
That's one of the big takeaways for me, just as a consumer, is the majority of people working in this industry are not your megastars making megastar money. They're generally living in California, where it's expensive to live, and they're barely getting by.
When you watch your average television show, most of the people whose names in the credits are just trying to pay their rent and put their kid through college, right?
That's who we're fighting for.
I mean, 87%.
87%?
87% of our union does not make $26,000 a year to qualify for health insurance.
And the Writers Guild is the only way in which most writers have health care or have a pension or have the ability to plan for a future for themselves and their families.
It's spirit breaking. It's major steps backward that can easily be avoided, because this strike isn't about greed.
It's really difficult when, you're living with precarity. You don't know, where your next job that's going to get you health insurance is going to come from.
Right.
Your family's relying on that health insurance.
So we're looking at depression and anxiety and the intense stress every month of, am I going to get to stay in my home? Am I going to have to take a job that I don't want to take, and that still may not cover things for me?
Writers can write their own narrative, and we are writing the narrative of the strike. And it's like, no, look, we're all struggling.
And there's so many more of us than there are of the big guys. And so that's why we're striking.
It's hard not to be on the side of labor, because you should pay the people who make you money.
Right.
Our members are not able to make a living. We're not able to sustain the lifestyle that's being created by the AMPTP companies right now.
It's real dumb to go up against writers and try and tell a story. That seems like a losing proposition.
The companies are trying to turn our careers into gig jobs, and we're not going to let that happen.
People can't make a living, and if they can't make a living, you have to do other things, and this becomes a hobby. And if this is a hobby, the quality goes down, and then your product, which is worth billions, stops being worth billions.
Which it's kind of sad, because we want to have specialty people doing it, especially with stunts. You want to have specialty people that dedicate their life to do it, because they're literally holding people's lives in their hands on set.
You want to see artists who are able to devote their lives to their careers. Same way you'd rather watch full-time NBA players than people who only play on the weekends.
For all writers, we're trying to make this a job and not a hobby. And so we need enough weeks and enough jobs in order to sustain a life. And the Guild wants to ensure there's enough of those opportunities to keep our members able to support themselves.
You do it because you love it, but also because at the end of all that, you expect to be fairly compensated, and because you believe that your work matters enough to be compensated accordingly. But as we've seen, we've seen how the streaming world and the ways in which the business models have shifted have eroded the way in which writers could live a middle-class lifestyle.
When the Netflixes and the Paramount Pluses and all that started, it was, new media. It was meant to be YouTube videos. No one really knew what it was. And how here we are many years later getting pennies on the millions as performers.
It's funny because time is a flat circle. Every time there is a new technology, the studios go, oh my gosh, we don't know if we're ever going to be able to monetize this.
And it's like, okay, that worked in 2007 when we didn't have social media. That does not work anymore. We know that you're lying.
It's an unfortunate fact of the type of union contract that we work under, that when there is a new medium that comes into play, we have to fight to get the same protections in the new medium as we had in the old one, even though fundamentally not that much has actually changed.
And it's time now to say, hey, you've had 15 years to look at the financial viability of this model moving forward. We need to create a residual payment and a payment structure that works for everyone and not just you guys.
They're making money on subscriptions and they're making money on commercials, and they're paying us none of that. And they're benefiting solely on our image and our work. Right. And we don't get compensated for that. And that's not fair.
The companies are right now in the process of rebuilding the cable television bundle.
You broke network TV for streaming, and now you want to recreate network TV on streaming. Well, then you're going to pay us network TV.
And also maybe stop paying that one dude hundreds of millions of dollars and distribute the wealth with the people that are actually making you the money. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a businessman, but just makes sense to me.
It's an art form that, why are we just giving it away just because there's a cheaper option?
The role of capital under capitalism is to push down the price of labor as much as it can so that they can keep the winnings for themselves. That's the way it's been since the Industrial Revolution. They work to try to figure out how to make the people who make their product do more for less money. That is their goal all the time. The goal of a union is to push back against that. And the only reason that writing or acting or any other career in Hollywood has ever been a sustainable occupation is because we've had strong unions fighting for those things and going on strike periodically. All that's changed over the last few years is that the companies have had more success grinding us down, finding contractual loopholes, finding ways around the protections that are in our contract.
Why not make writers do twice the work and half the time and pay them half the pay in something called a mini room? So this is a very condensed season of TV. You will have a room of only 3 to 6 writers instead of 6 to 10, break all the episodes in mere weeks, and then their contract's up and they're off the show. They're done. They don't go into production.
When the studios don't let a showrunner hire enough writers or keep them long enough, is that they end up using assistants and non-writing producers as kind of a de facto writer's room, but these people aren't being paid Writers Guild rates, and so it's kind of a skirting the system that we also want to curb. Like, if those people are performing the duties of WGA writers, they should be paid like it.
There are fewer opportunities for a sustained career as a writer now. It's a huge problem, not just for writers, but who do the studios think are going to create and run these shows that they want that feed their pipelines?
The WGA wants to ensure that we can have more writers in rooms for longer times, including sets, so that we can teach newer writers the skills that they're not getting just by writing a script alone, like working with actors, working with directors, learning to budget. Things that are going to turn them into good, effective showrunners for the future. Like right now, we don't really have a good pipeline that these studios should also be invested in, because they want showrunners that can be on budget and can deliver great shows.
What are the concerns that the writers have about how the companies are going to use AI to replace them?
There's a real fear that what the companies want is one showrunner and some AI programs feeding them ideas, but I mean, at least most people I work with feel that there is something kind of kinetic and special about a writer's room that is the human interaction and comes from people's different experiences all blending together to get on screen.
That is the difference between us and a machine right now, is that we have these emotions and we know what makes us, and it's illogical. Almost 100% of the time when I'm emotional, it's irrational. The computers don't have that ability. They don't know how to build that. It's not artificial intelligence. This isn't Skynet. These aren't robots coming to life passing the Turing test.
The term AI, let's be really clear, it's a marketing term these companies came up with to make you think that the large language models can do more than they can.
It's just taking stuff that's been done and then aggregating it and then putting it together into a new script.
The idea being then you can pay the writer less because they're not getting all of their steps and all of that, right?
All these things do is they output text, all right?
Yeah.
But outputting text is not the job of a writer.
It's a language model. It's predicting words. It's not predicting human behavior.
So our proposals are just designed to protect writers from having their work being undermined and their wages being undermined by AI. So our proposals are that the work of an AI cannot be treated as the work output of a writer, nor can we be forced to adapt text created by a so-called AI.
That really, this is the first labor movement against this technology. This is going to set precedent for everything.
Every time I talk to people, they're like, go get them. Stop this AI because it's coming from my job too.
There are specific jobs that we should not remove a human element from.
It's easy, you think, to take people out of the equation.
Once you get your likeness and your voice, that's it. The actor has no work for the rest of their life. You can create anybody out of nothing, and actors would be the first one out of a job.
So we're not protecting against technology. We're protecting against the business practices of these companies that are trying to grind down writers.
All of these issues are connected, as you can see, as I'm kind of saying it out loud. I can't separate them from each other because they all deal with being able to rise up.
This isn't just our fight. This is something that we're doing, yes. But really, this is everybody's thing.
Our belief is that there isn't going to be any movies or television worth watching if the people who make the movies and television are not able to make a living, right? Because what you love is not, the CEOs and the corporate stockholders. You love the creators of the work.
How many of us use these stories for inspiration, for escape, for connection with our loved ones, for connection with friends? To recharge so we can face our lives again. I mean, I don't think we can understate how important art is for our mental and emotional health and has been throughout the history of humanity.
How united is everyone in really pursuing these goals?
Both the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA are fighting for participation in the success of our projects. And our proposals are different, but when you have two unions fighting for one thing, that you can be pretty sure you're going to win that thing.
Look, our feet are tired, but our hearts are strong.
Everybody is really in great spirits, but like combined anger.
We're engaged in collective action with each other, that we're fighting together for a common goal. And that is much more powerful than the feelings of alienation and competition that, the capitalists want to saddle us with, because we're showing up for each other and fighting for each other.
So we have to remember that we are coming from a place of strength if we're together.
I'm optimistic because we are continuing to hold the line and because we're not going to stop until we get what it takes for that.
And so all that remains to be found out is, when are they going to accept reality and come back to the table and concede to these extremely reasonable demands? And by the way, they lose money every day they don't. Just yesterday, there was a big report that Warner Brothers had lost hundreds of millions of dollars because of the strikes. That's what they told the federal government. And yet it would cost them $40-50 million to settle with us, a tenth of what they've already lost. Now, is that rational? I don't think so. I think that pretty soon their shareholders are going to say, what the f*** are you guys doing? Stop wasting money and get back to work, right? Like, why are they stopping the whole town down in order to waste all this money? It's ridiculous. And when the strike ends, it'll be for that reason. And we will win.
Please go to entertainmentcommunity.org, where you can donate money that will help these working writers and actors pay their medical bills, their mortgages, and just be able to survive while they're striking against the people who are trying to make it so that they can't actually make a living making the stuff that we love.